Dear friends, good morning once again. Today, the responsorial psalm we just heard is very beautiful. According to the psalmist, our eyes are on the Lord till he shows us his mercy. This psalm shows our dependence on God for mercy, and it reminds us of our need to be constant in prayers, looking up to heaven where the Lord is and where our help and grace will always come from. The psalmist also said, "My help shall come from God, my help shall come from heaven, and God, the maker of heaven and earth." So our eyes ought to be on the Lord all the time. The theme of grace comes out in the second reading of today from the second letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians. And it reminded us of that consoling word of the Lord that said, "My grace is enough for you. My grace is sufficient for you." Grace. Grace is God's gift, and it enables us to achieve a lot, both spiritually and temporally. In that popular song, Amazing Grace, we know that very well. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound, and so on and so forth. If you meditate on that song, you see the characteristics of grace. Grace was referred to as amazing grace. How sweet thy sound. And grace saves a wretch like me. That is the duty of grace in our lives. And it today calls us again, reminding us of the need for us to depend on the grace of God and not solely on the help of man or on our strength or on our connections. All these things can fail us at any time, but grace will never fail us. It was grace in the second reading of today that gave Paul the effrontery. We saw the effrontery Paul exhibited in the second reading. He said, "I am content with my weaknesses, with insults, with hardships, with persecution, and with agonies, for he was strong in his weakness." What made him so bold to say that? Grace of God. We too can be strong in our weaknesses, even when we are despised, like Jesus in the gospel reading of today. We too can pull strong. We too can remain strong all through our lives. And that is courtesy of grace. When we are going through tough times, let us remember the word of the Lord. "My grace is enough for you." Fathers need grace as well as mothers. Boys and girls need grace. Ladies as well need grace. Indeed, all of us need grace. Priests, bishops, deacons, all of us need grace. It is grace that enables us to pray. And it is grace that enables us to practice holiness, because we cannot be holy by our own strength. It is grace that empowers all of us to become holy. Unfortunately, sometimes we can reject the grace of God. As the Catechism of the Catholic Church teaches us, that sometimes man can abandon the grace God has given him, just like Jesus was abandoned in Nazareth today in the gospel reading. And that was why he never performed any miracle in his own town, because he was rejected. So also we can reject God, we can reject the grace of God. But there is hope, dear friends. let us always, every morning, call on our Blessed Mother Mary. She is the channel of God's grace. She is the channel of all graces. She will always help us to acquire more graces from her Son, Jesus Christ, so as to be able to improve ourselves in our spiritual life, improve our word, and improve our neighbors beside us. And this is our prayer today, through Christ our Lord. Amen.